So one of the areas that I'd like to provide a little bit of support in here is close reading the text a little bit. So if you open up to page 380, and look at lines, what would it be? About 55 through 67, the little interaction between Hadenbach and Torres. I think this is a really interesting place where we can look and see how, even in a nonfiction text, the way that an author describes the people that are in it, you might call it the characters, and the ways that you can think about the specific diction, word choice that he uses can be really helpful. So if you read this chunk, it reads, the next day, Hadenbach appeared at the wake, which was held at the New Life Community Church, housed in a low-slung former factory. He spent the day by Torres' side, sitting with him, talking with him, urging him to respect his brother's wishes. When Torres went to the parking lot for a smoke, his hands shaking from agitation, Hadenbach would follow. Because of our relationship, I thought there was a chance, Hadenbach told me. We were both cut from the same cloth. That phrase there, if you don't know what that means, cut from the same cloth, means that we are very similar people. Imagine, literally a piece of cloth that you make a piece of clothing out of, and you cut one piece and you cut another piece. You have the same background. And that's what's really interesting about Torres and Hadenbach. They both come from this very violent, gang-affiliated past, and they have come to different places in life. On the one hand, we have Torres, who still seems to be responding violently, trying to, very rightly so, get justice for his nephew. But rather than going through, official channels, he wants to go seek that justice and revenge himself. Hadenbach, on the other hand, again, who came from a prison-filled, violent past, is now the one who is changed, who has tried to look to Torres and try and talk him out of just repeating the cycle of violence and violence and violence. And it's really interesting how these two characters really are brought together in this sense. I don't know if you can hear my daughter screaming, but it's her. She's okay. So moving on. Hadenbach knew from experience that the longer he could delay Torres from heading out, the more chance he'd have of keeping him from shooting someone. So he let him vent for a few hours. Then Hadenbach started laying into him with every argument he could think of. So this really tells me that it's hard. It's hours long of a process. It's not just going over to somebody, rubbing their back and saying, I understand that you're upset, buddy, but it'll be okay, and then leaving. It's spending a ton of time and actively working to stop him from seeking violence. I mean, this is a guy who got multiple guns ready to go kill a person who he hears is responsible for his nephew's death. And to go from that level of intensity to bring it down, that takes a lot of work. And that's what Hadenbach has to do here. And that's what he really works to do with him. And again, takes a lot of time to do. These questions that he asks at the end are so telling and so powerful and really get at the core of the issue. Look around. Do you see any old guys here? I never seen so many young kids at a funeral. Look at these kids. What does the future hold for them? Where do we fit in? Who are you to step on your brother's wishes? Do you see any old guys here? Look at all these young kids. What does their future hold? They live in this subculture that is actively causing the deaths of anybody before they can get old. That's why they're all so young. Not because the old people don't care, but because people are dying before they get old. Hadenbach and Torres are outliers. The fact that they have survived this long is rare. Torres, because he left Chicago, but Hadenbach, he just got lucky, I guess. I don't exactly know how he escaped this, because we see the violent acts that he's been a part of, and he got very lucky. What does the future hold for them? Where do we fit in? How can we break the cycle? Where can we change the future for these other kids? How can we take this tragedy and use it for something else? How can we change the direction of these lives so that more and more kids don't get sucked into this cycle of violent act after violent act? Because that's all that it begets, and it takes somebody to say, no, I'm going to stop. And that's powerful. I think that the most intense question that he asks is, who are you to step on your brother's wishes? Man, that is tough. And And it takes a lot of courage to say. I mean, if you're talking to somebody who's literally ready to murder because they are so upset about what happened to their brother, and to get in their face and say, who are you to step on your brother's wishes, to imply, not even imply, to directly state that you are going against what your brother would have wanted, man, that's intense. Um, I hope that you are looking at the whole text this closely and thinking about it this intensely, because that's what we would be doing in class together. If you are confused, again, please come to my office hours. Well, come to them. Load up the Zoom meeting, and I'll be here with you, ready to answer questions. If you're really confused, please send an email, or we can do, a one-on-one sort of FaceTime session if you need to through Zoom as well. Please let me know. I'm here to help and here to make sure that you are getting as much out of this time as you can. All right. Wash your hands. Stay cool. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe.